Welcome back. So we made a session where we looked at my photos, and now I have the privilege to actually look through some of your photos and ask
Cool.
ask you about how did you get the shot? What's the story behind it? So I'm eager to get started.
All right, let's do this.
So the first one that I selected is this shot here with the woman in the cave. So I would like to know
Sounds
more.
bad. I hope we put up the pictures.
Of course, they gotta see it. I mean, it's not some S&M shit.
Yeah.
It's much more, friendly, family friendly. But yeah, so basically, I'm really curious about, first off, I mean, how did you get here?
Okay, so this was interesting to me because this was my second shoot in Singapore. And this one was a creative shoot that I wanted to do for me. So I'd got to Singapore and I'd been shooting for a while, a little bit before that. I really didn't start shooting photography that much, like that long ago. I think maybe 2014, 2013.
Okay.
I'd sort of really picked up a camera.
Yeah.
But so I got to Singapore and I realized, you've got to pick up your game. You sort of look at other people's photos and maybe you deconstruct them and break them down, but sometimes you're not impressed, sometimes you are. But I wasn't doing anything. So I thought, all right, I've really got to pick up my game here. I've got to start actually building shoots that inspire me, that are that I want to inject a story into the shoots I do, especially for portrait shoots and creative things that I do. So this was one where I really tried to take it up a level, and I got a few people involved. And the concept I wanted to do was an Alice in Wonderland shoot. And I wanted it to be a bit different. I wanted it to feel a little bit cinematic, but also to not be the normal Alice in Wonderland, the very, like Disney-ish, like fairy tale storybook type thing. I wanted it to be a bit more real, a bit darker. And the whole concept of this shoot was Alice heads into the forest and it's her journey into Wonderland to meet the Hatter at the end. So we were lucky enough when we were in Singapore that we went to Botanic Gardens, and this cave is actually a man-made cave. They built it because everything's sort of man-made in Singapore.
Okay.
So it wasn't that old, but yeah, I went in and I had one of my friends, Rick, was helping me, and my girlfriend at the time, Hitomi, was helping me as well. She actually got the dress and the basket, I think. Like the guys helped me with props and we were all pulling things in. Then I put out a notice to try and find somebody, a model to shoot. And this lovely lady was willing to help us out. And it all just sort of started coming together. And then we were like, all right, let's go do it. So we planned and had a little location scout and went down and walked through the gardens, and then we found this cave and we thought, all right, this would be a really cool point to shoot some stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the area that we started.
Yeah, I really loved how it came out.
Oh, thanks,
Everything
man.
from the environment, to both the simplicity as well as the complex. Like there's so many details, but they're not overwhelming me when I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and that was the big thing, is to make it not feel like it was a fake cave. Because if you go out any wider than we are, you actually sort of see people walking around, and it feels like just around the corner from that spot is restaurants and garbage bins. And if you shoot the other way, I think they were doing construction behind us. So it really was trying to make it feel like it was all one environment in nature and blended in. And she was in this wonderland.
Did you have any problems with like the crowds, like managing the crowds and finding the opportunity to take it?
People were pretty good. I'd already talked to the parks people. I'd called them up and said, look, I want to shoot. What is are there any limitations? Do I need a permit? And we sorted all that out before, and then they were very much like, don't stop people from doing their everyday thing, because I think we may have shot on a weekend. I can't remember, but it was just don't be in the way. But yeah, the size of people you want to shoot and the equipment you have is not going to be a problem for this permit. So, so I think it's always important for people to try and sort that out earlier than
exactly.
getting there on the day. But the stupid thing I did on the day was we were all getting ready at my house. The makeup artist was doing the makeup at my house. And when we were sorting so many things, including like Singapore is humid all the time.
Yeah.
So we had to think about ways to keep the model cool and not just like sweating constantly in between shots. So we get things like ice packs that we could like pull out in between shots and like put it under our arms and on a forehead and things. So,
keep them in the basket.
actually we may have but amongst all the mayhem of getting ready at the house and then getting 2 cabs down to the Botanic Gardens and meeting at the right place and getting set up, I stupidly left the receiver for my flash at the house. So I'd sent my ex-girlfriend, or the girlfriend at the time, back to the house to pick it up. So we started shooting, and this shot I actually had to shoot with a bit of an improvised shot. Because I had a few flashes with me, I had the off-camera flash in a 80 centimeter softbox off to the left, sort of 45, and I had one of my friends holding the flash on a monopod, and then I attached another flash to trigger the off-camera flash, and that was on my camera. So we were getting these shots before we had the trigger come back.
Yeah, okay.
Luckily, I didn't live too far away.
Yeah, and for people that might not know, a receiver is basically the small device that you attach to your camera that speaks to the flashes, right?
No, the trigger is what you attach to the camera, and so it's a wireless signal sent to the receiver that's connected to the flash.
Yeah.
Or some flashes now, like my Godox, have a receiver built into the flashes, and you just buy the trigger of that brand. And then you can trigger them, which is a lot nicer. But that was really annoying, and I was trying very hard to keep cool. I don't think I was as calm as I should have been. But yeah, it was a great day, and that's one of my favorite shots. And everybody that was a part of this, it was amazing. So I really owe everybody for that.
Yeah, I like the depth as well. I mean, you have 2 layers of depth really, but the subject really stands out. But then you can follow her almost into the cave, and there's something going on behind her there.
Yeah, and that really comes down to choosing the right lens. So the widest I had was a 24, but I really wanted to make the cave feel like it was really long. The cave actually isn't that long. It might have been 10, 15 feet behind her was that wall in the background.
Yeah. But
there's actually a whole part of the way through the cave where the light comes through, and it's like a man-made waterfall in front of it. And I have another shot that's shooting through that where she's sort of kneeling down and looking through the waterfall. But it added some nice spots of light to help the depth behind her. But a lot of it was trying to put her in the right position where it was dark behind her, so she stands out, light her with the flash, but then get a bit of light on the foreground elements that are outside of the cave. The rocks is leading into the cave.
Yeah, the framing is really good. And the contrast, and also the contrast is in colors. I really like it.
Yeah, so there was a lot of post-processing on this stuff.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, lovely.
Thanks, man.
All right. Is there anything else that you wanna touch upon before we venture to the next one?
This whole thing was a series, and I'd planned out most of the shots before, not to the point where I knew every single pose, but I had an idea, and using that idea as a starting point gave me the ability to be able to build a story of photos, not just shoot a single photo. And that was really, for me, I think those little 1%ers and levels really can help you up your photography.
Yeah. did you mentioned that it's a series? How long time did you spend on location? And
We spent an afternoon, and the only problem was that we were hoping for a nice sunset. So the idea was Alice walks into Wonderland and she goes through this cave, ends up on the other side, and she makes her way down to have a picnic with the Hatter at the end. And the idea was she would be down in this open field at the end of the day, sunset, and we had like a picnic blanket in the basket and all these like cups and plates and fruit and stuff. The only problem was that day there wasn't a sunset, so the last shots weren't great, and it started getting a bit dark. So we shot what we could, but I still had some shots at the end, but it wasn't exactly what I'd hoped for. But I think I was happy with the other shots. So
that's great. What's usually your ratio? I mean, of course, this was a setup shot, but usually, what do you like? How many shots do you usually like to be really happy with after a shoot like this?
Good shots. I mean, it really depends on what I'm shooting.
Yeah, of course.
And the idea, I usually like to give people, like, if I'm shooting for a person or a client, I'd probably give them 8 to 10 high-end retouched shots. But, other people may not want that. Maybe they want volume of shots and not have so much work done on them. So I'll just shoot more. But I still like to take my time to try and compose the shots and set everything up. And when you have shots like this where you need to incorporate artificial light to mix with the ambient light, I want to take that extra time to set it up. And especially because this was my creative idea, I wanted to make sure I didn't just rush through it, get back to post and try and fix everything, all the mistakes. Like, there's still a lot of mistakes, you make when you're shooting, but sometimes you have to deal with them, and other times you can minimize as much as you can and really try and get what your creative vision is, I guess, before you go there, what your idea of the shoot was, to try and fulfill that.
And it's always better to do everything on site, as good as you can. You save a lot of time, but also some things you can't salvage.
Yeah. I mean, at some point you start getting into basically just digital painting.
Yeah.
So, and I was trying to avoid that as much as possible.
Well, I think you did a great job.
Oh, thanks, man.
All right. So should we check next one?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see which one we had as the number 2. Oh. It was basically this one. Yeah. So we have a man sitting behind a steam cloud.
Yes. This is one of my favorite shots, actually. So when I'd finished up at ILM in Singapore, this is another Singapore shot.
Okay.
I had a month of vacation sort of teed up. I had done a bit of overtime, and so I was planning to take a month and just in that time spend it in Singapore. And my friend had come over who was shooting some chefs for a television show, and he asked me to help him out, so I tagged along. So we caught up and I was able to tag along, and then I talked to the company after I'd shot a quick couple of shots of the chef we were shooting for the television show, and then this guy is a Japanese chef in Singapore and has this really cool restaurant, and it's part of the same company. It's under the same management company. I'm not sure what the and so I asked if I could shoot and if they'd be interested in doing a shoot, and they were. So we organized to shoot him preparing some food in his restaurant. It's called Bincho SG. SG. It's really cool, and it's basically, the restaurant is at the back of this sort of building, and at the front during the day there's a Chinese noodle bar, and then during the night I think the Chinese noodle bar closes down and it turns into like seats and things as extra space for the restaurant. But it's really cool area, and he was really nice. So we went in, and this shot specifically we'd set up. So I think that's dry ice in the bottom bowl. Basically what you're looking at there is, in the bowl is all this sushi that he's made, and then he puts dry ice underneath it, and then the dry ice comes out. and I wanted to get a shot of him sort of looking down on it, but with all the dry ice. So I had, for this one, I used a rotolight, the rotolights we're using here.
Okay, to light us right now.
Yeah, so it was just constant light on him, and I had an assistant off to the right. I think it was to the right, lighting him and the bowl, and then just got down low and shot. And again, I shot pretty wide on this because I wanted to get the bowl. I actually could have shot a little bit wider to get the bottom of the bowl, but it doesn't bother me too much now. And sort of get that length and depth going back through the shot to show some of his restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah, the framing is similar to the. I mean, he's in center, and then you have like the environments surrounding him, and also there's a lot of details there, but they don't overwhelm you as you're looking at it.
Yeah, and it's, it is an environmental portrait, so I wanted to, have him in his element, and I just thought like shooting through all that sort of steam was really cool, and then in post I put a lot of contrast in it and tried to get him to stand out through that a little bit. So you sort of, I think when I look at the shot, I look at the light first. So I look at the bowl and then I sort of move up. And as you start to look, you start to see his face.
Yeah. No, it works really, it fits and works really well. So it leads you up, the steam or whatever guides your eye from the bowl up to his face, and then his face kind of pops out the more you look at it.
Yeah. And that was trying to, some of those layers of adding a bit of interest to the shots.
Yeah. Did you end up actually dining there?
Yeah, we went there a couple of times.
Okay.
So the first time I went with the group that owns all these restaurants manages all these restaurants, and then we were eating there, and then I was saying to one of the guys, like, this would be a great place to shoot. I really like this. And then we sort of kept talking. I was like, oh, would they be interested? Yeah, cool. All right, let's So I got to shoot. We organized to do it.
Okay.
And it was cool. Like, I got to stand in the kitchen section while he was doing barbecue stuff and shoot over his shoulder and get some shots of coals. And it was really interesting to see the way he worked.
Yeah. No, I think it's very candid, but it also like there's a lot of story going on, but it's also framed in a way. So yeah, it works both ways. It doesn't feel staged at all, but the way you framed it and the way it pops really feel like it's worked through. It's really nice.
Yeah, so originally I didn't know he was going to shoot this shot this way. We didn't talk about having like all this steam and dry ice. He'd prepared this. So we shot a couple of times, and then I tried to get it, and then I thought, you know what, this is so cool. I think this was the second time I shot it. I asked him, could you set that up again and shoot it? Because I really just want to make sure I nail this shot and get him in there. Because I think the first time, so much of that like dry ice, smoke, steam, sort of, you couldn't see him so much. So then we moved the light a little bit, and then I really wanted to get him in there.
And I guess this is, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you nailed it on your first try. But with all these like elements that it's hard for you to control, like the steam and everything, I guess you took a few shots before you got it right as well.
Yeah, the good thing was, because we're indoors, the ambient light doesn't change. So I could set my general exposure. The only thing was, if we were changing shutter speeds, then I'd have to readjust for things. But for most of it, I was able to shoot in a roughly similar like exposure, and then it was just adding the roto light in with the LED light to add in with the whatever the lights in the restaurant were, and then sort of balance it out and get it right. So we were adjusting a little bit here and there, but the assistant could adjust that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
but I did a lot of sort of test shots when I first got there.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't want to stop people too much while we were going, because they were prepping food as well.
Yeah, of course.
So I'd have to be like, all right, can everybody get out of the kitchen? Yeah, but it's really taking the time before I shot was important, and then even between shots, composing and really having an idea of what I was trying to do was another one.
Yeah. and then just being ready when the scene unfolded, I assume.
Yeah, he just started pouring the stuff in and smoke started
Yeah,
coming out.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
all right, yeah, better shoot that.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's a great analogy for how we work in almost everything we do. It's like there's a lot of prepping, and there might be some post work as well, and framing and everything else, or depending on what we're working on. But when you have to go, sometimes you just have to go.
Yeah.
And then you rely on all those skills and everything else to lead you up to that point. So that's, yeah. And then, but when you're there, then you just have to go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is a great example of that.
Thanks, man. And yeah, this shot doesn't work for me if he's not in the shot.
Yeah.
It's just another sort of photo of food, or not even food. You can't even see it. So it's really about him, and then it only works because he's there in the background. And I don't think it would have worked without the smoke either.
That's why we should date models. So we
Yeah.
always have someone.
Yeah.
That's why, unfortunately, actually, on my Instagram, there's a lot of pictures of myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm just
You
out.
want to date yourself?
I just want to date myself. There's a secret fantasy of me when cloning actually becomes readily available. I'm just gonna. No, but jokes aside, like sometimes you need something in the center of the frame. You need something
Yeah.
to bring that out. And even though it might be the most beautiful landscape, there might but if you don't have anything there, sometimes it's not as interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm a portrait photographer. So
Yeah,
then I'm
exactly.
just
So for
shooting
you, it's
white
even
backgrounds.
for you, it's even more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue to the last one. And
And sorry, just on
no?
that one, I just want to say when you were talking about resolution before.
Mm-hmm.
So these shots in Singapore were all shot on Sony A7S. So that's the 12 megapixel camera. And even these I could blow up if I wanted to. And that's what I was sort of saying before about resolution is, we've gone well beyond that now. But people keep talking about gear and megapixels. And if you don't have, there's no reason for a lot of people to need it. I think these worked as well because it was the last two were relatively low light, and those 12 megapixel camera worked great. I didn't have the best gear in Singapore, so I used what I had, and I think these show you can use whatever you.
But you were comfortable with your gear as well, right? And
Absolutely.
I think that's also a great part of it. Like whatever gear you have, be sure to actually know it and use it.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, this was with I think it was the Zeiss 24-70 f4. So the widest I could go was f4. I didn't have a, 85-1.4 or 35-1.4. I had what I had.
Yeah.
And this is what came out. So I think I was happy with this shot, and I hope other people like this shot. But, I think we get too caught up in some of the tech specs.
Yeah, for sure. And dreaming about what gear could do for us instead of using the stuff that we have readily available and actually produce content.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're doing right now as well. We're producing content with the gear that we have. And
yeah, exactly.
Of course, we're dreaming. We're having wet dreams about the microphones we want to get and the lights.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I talk and get caught up in specs and gear as well. It's a fun path to go down, and it's hard not to spend the cash sometimes.
Yes.
But I think you do have to remember just to go out and do it sometimes and just shoot and whatever you've got. As long as you understand other things as well, like how to... there's a lot of elements like lighting that become important. And, you don't have to have the best camera. If you know how to light something, you can, it definitely helps, obviously depending on the situation. But, there's a lot of technical things you can learn in photography.
Yeah. And also to actually know why you're getting it. Not just because you think it's better, but actually know, maybe get some kind of a style, both in how you use your gear, but also how your images look or end up.
Yeah.
And then understand what actually enables you to get there, and if that gear actually would help you out or if it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Cool. Well, let's dig into the last one here we have.
The last one.
Yes. So, what? Well, I'm just going to hand it over to you. Let me. I'm interested in everything, basically. How this shot came to be, how you're lighting it. I mean, it seems to be some kind of light painting as well going on. So
Yeah, so this is a long exposure shot.
Yeah.
This was another shot. Actually, this is my friend Bridget, and I wanted to shoot some stuff doing some long exposure light painting, and she wanted to do some shots. She's in Japan, and she's doing some dancing as well now. So this series was about combining some of these elements, as well as her, like, she talks about, and I've put in some of the quotes on Instagram about her overcoming some of her own issues to be able to feel comfortable in shooting. So the idea was talking about her and some of her personal battles, as well as, you know, the light painting through this, the light streaks sort of represent our paths through life, and they're never straightforward. So the idea of this, technically this is probably one of the most difficult shots and series I've had to shoot, because it combines so many elements together. So this shot is I think it was a 6-second shot with flash, and then me running around like a crazy man in the background with a light stick to build these light trails.
So you were both behind the camera and in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But you can't really see you.
Yeah, you can't see me at all. So that's the fun thing about
Yeah.
light painting and long exposure. But yeah, I was sweaty by the end of this, because I'm pressing the shutter button, and then I'm running and turning on the light, and then running through the frame and waving it around like a crazy person. I think if the people walking past probably thought I was insane, and they're like, this poor girl's like forced to sit on the ground while this idiot's running around with a lightsaber behind her.
Yeah.
But I was happy with these shots, and again, you know, sometimes things don't work out. We'd planned to shoot this down by the wharf, but when we got down there was a couple of things that I hadn't anticipated, and one was they'd had extra light under the bridge. It was right, we were trying to shoot near Rainbow Bridge, and the spot we were going to, I'd gone down to in the afternoon, but the lights hadn't come on at that point. So I got down there and it was way brighter than I thought it was going to be. And then, so we walked around for a little bit, but while we were walking around, it started raining. So we decided to go back to this underpass. Okay. And then we shot sort of near my house. And then I think like it works. It turned out all right, but you know, there was a few issues we ran into, but you know, we made it work. And I think that's a big thing, that you can't get too overwhelmed when you're shooting. Things are going to go wrong, and you just have to sort of be able to deal with it calmly and then keep going.
Well, I think that's a great way to end it. Yeah. And for people at home to take with them if they're doing something similar. Yeah. But it's a great shot, and people should definitely go online and check them out.
Oh, I hope so.
So, do you have your handle?
Yeah, mine is at Can You Pick It's Kento, and pick is PIC, like picture. Okay. So, yeah, Can You Pick It's Kento.
All right.
I guess we need to put those in the
they're in the YouTube segment, so you can also find us on YouTube, and they're linked both in About Us and in the. Yeah, so that's great.
Well, hopefully people go on and enjoy, and then
check it out.
Yeah, and
they can comment if they want us to explain something in more detail as well.
Yeah, maybe if somebody has a good shot that they want us to look at, it'd be cool too. Okay, get in touch with us.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah, thank
you.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.